Hi everyone, I'm back with Charmaine again, and as I mentioned in our last video that we did together, we had so much fun discussing and we have so much in common with regards to how we help our clients quit sugar and how we are looking at sugar addiction and the cravings in general that we wanted to do it again. And as we already said, we could probably keep doing this every week because there's so many things that we can discuss, and it's so nice to have a like-minded coach that think and operate the way that I do. But today we are focusing on one topic only, and that is how to manage your emotions without food. Because there are a lot of emotions going on right now with the lockdown, especially, with the current economic climate. That can be a huge factor for many people. And just being locked up on its own, not being able to do the things that you normally do, you being thrown out of your routine, and so on. And all of those things will disrupt your life basically, and that makes us uncomfortable, and that is not a nice feeling to have. So how do we manage those emotions? How do we do that? So we discussed that quite a lot. So we thought we would give this topic a go, and if I may say so myself, I think we really do complement each other really well. Um, when I'm talking about something, usually when I'm looking back at it, I have a few more things that I want to add on to that, and I think Charmaine was really filling that gap today. So I think this is quite a good video if you want to learn how to manage your emotions without the food, and listen to what we actually say, listen to how simple it is, and just follow the instructions. I hope you will enjoy it.
All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm so excited to be here on the Sugar Channel with Pim, another fellow sugar coach. So I'm also a sugar cravings coach. I help people end their cravings for sugar and carbs so they can finally lose the weight they've always wanted and just feel so much better in their own bodies. And so something that I think is interesting that both Pim and I have experience with is this issue, well, this concept of emotional eating. Because I think it's a very popular concept that has been brought up a lot, especially with the quarantine going on and people being at home a lot. So I wanted to talk about that and just talk about like what emotional eating actually is, what that means, what that looks like, and how to actually stop doing that so we're not eating our feelings all the time at home, and we're finally living healthy and preventing, doing what we can to not get the virus by taking care of ourselves. So thank you, Pim, for having me on today.
Well, you're welcome. I really enjoyed our last chat. So we I think we both did, and we have so much in common. So we just decided to continue and do another video together. So this would be awesome. So this time I actually asked Charmaine what she felt most attracted to actually talking about, and it's pretty much how we manage our emotions with food, and how we always constantly use food to dull our emotions because we are scared of them or we feel uncomfortable with them. And it's a normal human reaction. It's nothing that is, very strange or anything. Most people do something. A very select few probably don't have that problem, but most people do with something, and a lot of us are doing it with food because food is very easily available, and it gives us a huge reward. All the processed food is it's just boosting your dopamine to the max over and over again, and you can stock up on it. You can have as much as you like of it, pretty much. So yeah, where do you want to start?
So I kind of wanted to first start off by just giving a definition of what we think that means, because I think there's a big misconception of
That's
like
good.
what it means to emotional eat and be an emotional eater, because what most people think, because when I'll ask people sometimes about their eating habits, a lot of people will tell me like, I'm not an emotional eater, I don't I don't eat emotionally. And but the way that I define it, which you could share me your definition too, Pim, is basically anytime you eat food for any reason besides fueling your body.
Yes.
So right. So it could be, if even if you've already, it's basically like if you've had your meals for the day already, you've already eaten enough to get the energy you need for your body and to do your things for the day. It's any time you want to eat outside of that. So can you think of some examples, maybe, Pim, or what that would look like to you?
Yeah, first of all, excuse me, I think that is such a good definition. That is exactly what I think emotional eating is. Every single time you put something in your mouth without doing it because you are hungry and you need the nutrition. God. So, I mean, I can just use my own examples. I think I mentioned this in the previous video that we did, that I never used to think that I'm an emotional eater. I saw people who were emotional eaters as those people that they were upset about something and then they would go to food, and someone had said something mean to them, they would go to food. A stressful day at work, they would go to food. And that is not me. I go to food when I'm struggling with, okay, what am I going to do now when I'm restless, when I'm bored, and if I feel overwhelmed by some task I have to do, I'd rather go to food. So I'm procrastinating by using food, and all of those are obviously emotions. I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm bored. What's the problem with boredom? Can't I just sit with a boredom and be bored? No, I have to have food. So those kind of things. So it could be anything. So if you think about whenever you're eating and you're not eating because you're really hungry, now that is a different topic. We could talk about hunger versus cravings. I've done videos on that before, but they do feel different in your body. But if you know for sure that you are hungry and you're eating because you're hungry, you're probably going to actually want to eat a steak. You're not really going to want a cake or bread in that moment. That is usually a craving and an emotional event. So there is a distinction there, and I think it always starts with the awareness that we actually pay attention to what's going on. So the next time you feel like you need to eat something, ask yourself, why is it that I need to eat something? What's going on here? What am I thinking? How am I feeling? Is there something else that is underneath it that is uncomfortable?
Right. And I think when you brought it up, like the feeling doesn't have to be a very like extreme feeling, like especially with the boredom and just wanting to procrastinate. I think that's what so many people are facing right now with the quarantine, because that's definitely, what I hear my clients saying, like they're eating more for the boredom, and I have a client who's eating from overwhelm. Thinking about certain, the situation with the finances or whatever it is. So I think it's very important to notice that like an emotion doesn't have to be so extreme in order to classify as emotional eating. And so what I wanted to point out was with the boredom, I think that's a really good one to kind of talk about, because I think so many people are like bored out of their minds right now and are finding a lot of entertainment in the food. And so what I want to talk about a little bit, maybe you could share your thoughts on this too, Pim, is how do you manage the boredom like without food when so many people have this kind of most of us don't even know it, but so many social gatherings are just focused solely on food as the entertainment. So how do you deal with boredom when food's not the main attraction?
It's a huge topic, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So I'm just going to, I think actually, so the how is the why, is what I usually say. So if you have a why, you have the how. And what I mean with that is that if you have a reason to not go to the food, if you have a reason to do something else, if you have a why in your life, like I want to do this because of this and that. So you might have something in your life. I don't really care what it is. If you have a goal in your life and you can connect it back to the food actually interfering with that goal, because essentially that is what it's going to do. And I can promise you that when you start looking at it, it will do. You might be thinking, no, that's just bullshit. But actually, it does. So if my why is that I want to build a huge YouTube channel, for example, and I go to food, I'm not going to be spending my time building my YouTube channel. So I feel overwhelmed by, I don't know how to do this, and I need to produce a lot of videos, and instead I go eating. That is not going to help. So if you have some goal in your life, whatever that goal might be, and you can kind of always have that in the back of your mind and stay focused on that goal, it will still probably be quite clear to you that that sugar doesn't have a place in your life, because it will interfere with you reaching that goal in whatever fashion that is. I mean, it could be as simple as a weight loss goal. That's for many people. But a lot of the time, a weight loss goal on its own is not strong enough to keep you away from it. So that is obviously not the best why that you can have. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for hours probably. Yeah. I'll just hand it back to you. But have some other motivation in life, something that is important to you that you can focus on, and redirect your mind to that focus whenever you feel like, oh, I need to go and eat some sugar because I'm bored or whatever it is. No, you're not bored. You have a focus in life. What is that focus? Could you be doing something now to move closer to that goal right now?
Right. And I think that's such a great point you have there, because I think when we tend to be in something like this, it's never happened before, and it's really uncertain, and it's a really kind of scary situation we're going through, I think we tend to focus on like what we're limited on doing and what we can't do. And it might, we tend to go to thinking about like what's not working and what's not possible. So I think that's a great reminder to just remember that what we do focus on is always within our control. And if we do intentionally focus on what is meaningful for us, like what our purpose is, it can help us to kind of, not focus so much on like, oh, just like the feeling bored in the moment and the negative feeling in the moment, and just really remember like, there are still opportunities for growth, even in this time during the quarantine. Like there's always something that can make our life meaningful, no matter what situation's going on in the world.
Yeah, I mean, just look at it. We think, I mean, I've been talking about on my other channel that, they recently, a couple of weeks ago, they announced and then they fired 50% of the staff because the economy is going down. The investors are not putting in any more money. We're going to run out of money within 2 months, and they're going to have to shut the company down unless they take such measures. So a lot of people are being affected in economically, emotionally. It might be, many people are scared of the virus. There are a lot of emotions going on out there now. And I might be sitting here thinking, oh my God, how a lot of people I know, I own a house down on the West Coast, and I know the woman who rents that house, they have been informed that for the next coming 3 months after they starting business again, which might not be in another 2 weeks, everyone will be having their hours reduced to 80%, and they will not get any commission. So her salary is going down, and this is happening all over New Zealand. So if that was me, I'm lucky. I still have my job. I have a lot more to do at work, but I'm still getting my pay, and I'm really grateful, and I'm really feeling blessed for being in that situation. But as with her, for example, I know I was speaking to her, and they will be able to get by economically because there are two people who are working, so it's fine. But she might be sitting at home right now and thinking, oh my God, okay, how am I going to get ends to meet? I don't have the money. And just spin in those thoughts over and over again. And we get stuck in these negative thoughts and we can't really get out of them. And the only thing that will feel good when we don't think about anything else is something that will give us a dopamine hit. And that's when we tend to go to food or alcohol or whatever it might be. And I think we need to kind of get ourselves out of that and think, think a little bit broader and see what's actually going on. Okay, this is the reality. I cannot change this, but thinking about it constantly is not going to help. So what can I do? She's going to be working 80% of her hours. She has 20%, 2 hours per day, roughly, extra. What could she be doing during those 2 hours? Or even before she goes back to work now, what can she be doing? Can she, maybe she wants to find a different career. Maybe she wants to earn money another way. Maybe she just wants to, because she can pay the rent and get food and everything. She has her bills covered. Maybe she wants to grow as a person and focus on something that is much more useful and serves her better in her life. So these are all questions that you need to ask yourself. Like, what do you want to do? And where would you rather be? And how can you actually take steps to get there? And that is where that focus is coming in. Like, we need something else to focus on. I just went on a tangent there, I think, but if I answered your question, I'm just going on and on and on. I'm getting caught up.
Oh, I loved it. I was getting really internally riled up. I was just like, yes. But yeah, that's the thing. Like when we're kind of in these situations, we're kind of just stuck on oh, it's not working. But then I just got excited hearing you thinking, saying like, oh, but what can you create? Like, who can you become? Like, what can she create in these 2 hours? Like, what's possible that she could make in 2 hours that she's never made before? And those are the kind of questions that we got to be asking ourselves if we want to create a different result other than overeating or spending time procrastinating and creating a result we don't really want. Yeah. And really thinking of what do we actually want to create in our life, even if this is all going on, and how can we make that happen by asking these questions that are much more useful?
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, even if it's just like, okay, I have 2 hours extra, what do I want to do? I'm financially secure. I don't actually have any such ambition to get another job or whatever. Go play with your kids or your dogs or whatever you have, or be creative, start painting, write a book. I don't know, come up with something that makes you feel a bit alive and that makes life worth living, I think.
Right. And I think that's really so important during this time, because since we are, staying home more and it is kind of limited where we can travel and things like that, I think, this is all how you think about it. It's like, oh, this is my time to just go on just focus on what I've been putting off maybe, or goals that I've always been wanting to do, and just how you think about that. Because I think honestly, the root of emotional eating for a lot of people is they're kind of this is kind of a theory for me, but I feel like people just tend to go to food when they have there's no plan in place, kind of there's no plan, there's no direction. It's just kind of you want to fill your time doing something sometimes. And I feel like if there's no plan, if there's not a lot of purpose there, it's kind of, your brain wants the dopamine hit by occupying your time with something else, at least something that seems productive. But because our brain will always think, oh, eating is it's a helpful thing, we should probably eat. But that's what our brain will always tell us to do. But yeah.
Well, that's so interesting that you say that, because I think in this society, we are taught that we have to be so productive, we need to be multitasking, and just read job adverts, what they want. No, we want you to be able to do all these things together, and we want someone who can multitask and has all these skills. And we're just getting pressurized from everywhere that we should be super efficient 100% of the time. So we're scared of having downtime. I had a client.
You're right.
And I told her to, can you just, because there was a specific time when because she was working and then she had a little break and then she was working, and during that break she always had to go eat. And I was like, can you take 5 minutes and just sit, do nothing? And she said that was a lot harder than actually staying away from the food, to do nothing, because she needed to occupy herself constantly with something. And I'm very much the same. I'm always having to do something. And my mum used to say like that I was a restless soul because I need things to happen and change all the time, and I need to do something, and I could never sit down, and that I was eating all the time. I'm just doing all these things. I can't sit still and just do something. Nowadays, I mean, in the past, I actually enjoyed reading books and I could actually do that. But nowadays, I'm so deconditioned from actually doing that I want to listen to audiobooks so that I can do it at the same time as I'm doing something else, because I have so many things that I need to do that I want to be efficient and I want to do them at the same time. But by doing that, I'm not 100% present with the audiobook. So I'll probably miss a lot of things, but sometimes like, oh, I heard something interesting, I'll rewind and might take a note or just listen to it again. But I think we are like that in life in general, that we are doing so many things at once that we're not really experiencing anything properly. We're not present with one thing. That way we're kind of missing out on those things.
Yeah, right. You said it so beautifully. Like, I mean, it's so true. I think just the culture we live in, I definitely totally like understand that point of view. I still struggle with it myself sometimes because like I've always been kind of like a go-getter, like perfectionist type A person.
Mm-hmm.
So when I am just sitting down, I just want to feel like I'm doing something, like I'm getting something done. And I used to snack all the time before, and I just wanted to like fill my time. Even like watching a ove, you just kind of want to keep doing something, like you just want to keep like working or something. It's so interesting. So that is a good question though. It's like, oh, what if you could just like why is it so hard to just be still for like 5 minutes? And what are you left with when the food's not there to fill that space?
Yeah.
And like what is that like to
but just look at people when they are, I mean, this is one of my pet hates for sure. Like, I used to watch a movie with my boyfriend, and he all of a sudden he's on his phone doing shit, and I'm like, what's the point of watching a movie with you? Because I want that connection with him and watching the movie. And if he's on his phone, he's like totally not there, not with me, not with the movie, not nothing. And I'm like, I'm not even a movie person. I'm doing this because I want to have the connection with him. It's like a social thing. But even if you go out to like a restaurant and you look around, a lot of the time people are sitting on their phones when they are at a restaurant. And I think that is crazy. But if they aren't, if there is a table of two and one person goes to the bathroom, I bet you the other person will get the phone up straight away and be on it, because they're so comfortable just sitting there waiting. They will just put the phone up. And that is something that I don't know, it's fascinating, it's interesting, and it's scary that we're so conditioned to do that. We need to do something constantly. Sorry, I just had to put that in there because that triggered me. I'm like, oh my god, I hate this.
No, I totally agree. Like, I mean, I have to say that I am guilty of it sometimes myself, because I'm the one that's on my phone sometimes. Like when I'm like watching TV, I think I just did last night with my boyfriend. We were watching TV, and it's a show he really likes, and I wanted to watch the show with him, but then I was like on my phone. So I think that is interesting to look at. It's just like why can't we focus on one thing at a time and just be present? It's that dopamine hit. I feel like it's just really like being so kind of, when you're not conscious of it, it just, that drive for that instant gratification is so powerful when you're not aware.
God, yeah. It's so ingrained. It's just a reflex, and you just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of scary though.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, by locking the phones and throwing it in the trash. Just kidding.
It's not sugar. It's a phone. You still need them.
That's true. But yeah, I think I do teach my clients a tool. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the last talk, but basically it's kind of like that practice of being mindful and just being present. When you just decide to pause for a few minutes, like I call it the 90-second power pause. And I literally have my clients set a timer and then just sit with the feeling that, like, right before they reach for the food, I say to delay the grab, delay it.
Yep.
Don't grab it yet. Just stop what you're doing, pause for a second, and then set the timer for 90 seconds and just like sit with it and just feel that and let whatever that is be there and be curious about it, and just see what it's like to not have the food, and really get to know what it's like to experience these emotions that we have when the food's not around to numb it.
What does emotion, how do we feel our emotions? Because I feel like a lot of people don't really know what they feel like, and they're just like, I don't know, and I'm just frustrated or angry that I can't have it. Those are emotions as well, but how do they feel? How do you get to a point where, how do you teach your clients to get to, because it's very abstract, it's different for everyone, it's really hard to explain that. And I find that is, something that I find that is almost the hardest thing I'm trying to teach my clients, is that, how to feel that emotion. So I'm kind of a little bit curious to what tricks you have up that alley.
So basically, that's a great question, because you're right. Like, people have feelings is like foreign to so many people. Like, most people, we don't even know what hunger really is. Like, they have a hard time even knowing if they're even truly hungry or not. So what I tell people is basically make a plan of what you'll eat 24 hours in advance. Then when it comes to what's going on the day of, you only eat what's on your plan. If you have a craving to eat something that's not in the plan, then I tell them to basically, set that timer for 90 seconds and just kind of sit with that feeling, like almost kind of like it's a meditation. And that's how I describe it. It's kind of like, imagine like you're just kind of sitting there. And I actually do this on a call with them to do like a rehearsal run with them so they know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But on the call, I basically have them close their eyes and I say, like, okay, imagine that the cookie is in front of you and it's not on your plan, but it's in front of you, and just imagine that, what it's feeling. And I have them imagine it and smell it and imagine the texture and all that stuff. Like, we get real deep into that, like it's real. And then they just start to go into their body. Like, I really have them focus on, like, okay, what are you feeling in your body right now? And maybe they'll say, like, oh, my mouth is watering, something. Like, okay, like, where do you feel that in your mouth? Like, oh, I feel it like on my tongue. I could feel like a little, tingle, and I could feel my like saliva kind of like, I'm like drooling a little bit. I'm like, okay. And then I just keep going, like, what color would you give that sensation? And they go like, oh, like maybe like a pink, hot pink. I'm like, okay. Now what shape would you describe that as? And they'd go like, like maybe a star, like a little
Spiky.
star, like a burst of joy or something. And then like, okay. And then I really have them describe, like, is it moving quickly or slowly? Is it heavy or light? Is it like, what's the texture like? Is it spiky, prickly, tingly? And then I have them stay with that until the 90 seconds is done. And usually it will be done by that time. But then if they really have a hard time answering the questions, I will just go through it again. And I'll keep kind of like at least it a little bit, like I'll have them do it again until they could get like an idea of where in their body they feel something. But yeah, the way I describe it, it's really just kind of like doing a meditation and just focusing on the sensations in your body and describing it like physically.
That's really good. I like that.
Yeah, it's changed my life doing that exercise because once you do that and you just let the emotion be there, over what you'll see is over time it like will make the feeling less intense. And so that urge to eat is like not as strong anymore. And so you just let the feeling pass through you without resisting it.
I love that. The problem for me, or I thought it was a problem in the beginning, was that once I start seeing the cravings, as soon as I notice them, they go away. It's like they don't want to be seen. I'm like, wait, where did he go? I can't feel you anymore. How am I going to feel my feelings if I can't see you? But it's not really a problem because then it's past. And I'm going through that cycle a lot quicker than 90 seconds because as soon as I start paying attention to the craving and what's going on, it's pretty much gone, which is very interesting because I thought, I am a sugar addict, and as most people who are sugar addicted, they think that I'm the worst case ever and I'm the special snowflake here. I'm the one who will never be able to stop eating sugar. Everyone else can probably do it, etc. So it's very surprising to me that it's so easy to get rid of a craving.
Yeah.
When you take the time, and it doesn't even take any time, it just takes a little bit of willpower, a little bit, like not much at all. You just need to want to do it. We
want to be careful, not willpower, but more just, I would say just awareness. Like,
oh no, I meant willpower to want to do the exercise.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
So that's where I'm going wrong when I'm falling back, is that I'm choosing to not do the exercise. I'm choosing to go with my cravings instead and just give in to them. So it's a choice for me. So I need to, but maybe we shouldn't use the word willpower. Maybe I should say I have to choose every time to actually pay attention to it rather than like, nah, I'll just go with it, if you like.
Right. Oh, okay. Got it.
I get you. I don't like using, we shouldn't be using willpower because that's going to be a struggle. Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, so how long do you generally feel like it takes for a person to get used to this practice and just doing it, without thinking too much about it, because when we're repeating something, it kind of comes back and we do it more or less automatically. And how long do you find that takes for your clients?
Oh, I think if you really want it to be more automatic, which would take time, I would give a minimum of 3 months. And if you really, really want it to be less automatic, if you're practicing this every day, I would give it like 6 months for it to be like, then you could really start feeling like the food isn't like tempting you anymore or things like that. Because I mean, I have seen differences like in my clients. I have seen them feel like they say they're not craving food in as quickly as 2 weeks just from eating, just from changing the diet and regulating your hormones and eating higher fat, higher protein foods. So a lot of the cravings could be eliminated that way, but when it comes to managing the emotion, nutritional part of it, like, yeah, I think that would take really like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Something that I've seen in my clients is very often, as you say, around 2 weeks, they're like, yeah, I can do this. This is awesome. I'm great. Everything is great. It's going really well. And then I think this is just my theory. I think that we start to relax a little bit about it because we feel like we have control over it. And then all of a sudden there's a very sudden and unexpected relapse. And I don't know what happened. And I just ate this or whatever. Do you see that as well? Because I think that's fairly common.
Right. Like, I feel like what I see more is those cravings tend to come up more with social settings, because I feel like since they're not exposed to the social setting as much, especially like being out in restaurants nowadays and stuff, all the thoughts about wanting to eat off plan come up a lot, like with the social thing, like the social, I would call it like peer pressure eating and things like that. So that's what I would see. But you're right. I think you're right. Like, I do notice they think like, oh, after the 2 weeks, they think like, oh yeah, I'm okay. But then something will come, maybe a stress comes up that they didn't anticipate, and then then they'll eat something again if they're not really aware of that feeling.
Yeah. So we have to be on our toes a little bit and keep practicing. Don't let that practice stop.
Right.
Not for a very long time. I think for me, every time I think I'm safe, I'm not. So you need to make that decision and just choose to keep doing it. And it doesn't, it's not a big deal. That's the thing. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal in your head. You will have a conversation between your rational part of your brain and your survival brain or your reptilian brain, and they are going to have that conversation, but you don't really want to have that conversation. You want to decide beforehand that every time I have a craving, this is what I'm going to do. But your reptilian brain is still going to tell you that, nah, this time we're going to eat. So that's going to come back, and you just need to stick with it.
Right. I mean, one thing I want to say is like, okay, if you wake up at 5 a.m. every day for work, even though you do it every day, does it get easier every day waking up at 5 a.m.?
Oh, yes, it does for me. I'm a night person. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, okay. Not for me. Darn, that was a bad example for you. But okay, when I want to work out, okay, like every time I'd want to work out, even if you do it every day, and I know people get into routines, but I still feel like no matter what I do, every single time I work out, there's always like at least a little bit, there's a little bit of that resistance in your brain that's like, oh, but you need to sleep. Like there's always some, at least for me, that's what I hear, like my own resistance for a workout. But you still, it's just, I just accept that it's always going to be there, and I just got to do the workout still.
I mean, that's the way we're designed. We're designed to conserve our energy. We're not designed to exercise unless there's a reward at the end, as an immediate reward, like you're catching your prey and you can eat it. That sort of reward. I mean, you might have a reward that you're going to feel good, you're going to be strong, you're going to be healthy, you're going to age much better than the average population because you have more muscle mass, etc. But all of that is kind of a bit airy-fairy. It's not present right now. It's something that you're going to get the benefit of several years from now, and when you do, you're not even going to notice it. So you need to kind of talk yourself into that it's actually worth doing it. And most people are exercising because they want some sort of immediate results, unfortunately.
Right.
So it's just a mindset that, okay, this is something that I do, this is who I am, and this is how I work, and I'm doing this X amount of times per week. And the same thing with the cravings. Every time I have a craving, I'm going to pay attention to it and see what's going on. That's just what I do. And then you keep doing it.
Right.
It's not hard, but it's still hard, if you get what I mean. It's not hard to do, but it's hard for people, including myself, to get used to and make that commitment to actually do it every time. Because that other brain, the lower part of the brain, is going to sit there and then, no, you want to eat it. And try to talk you out of it. Like, just this once. Come on. It won't hurt you. Just a tiny bite. You know, it's going to be there. So you have to decide who you want to be. And, you know, how you're going to react in these situations. And I think there's just, you know, one answer to that, and that is to decide that I am going to do this every time. Because there's not a thing that you can do a bit half-assed every now and then. It's not going to work for you. And
right.
Super easy to do once you know how to do it. There are no excuses, just do it.
Right. But yeah, it's just so interesting. It's really, you know, our thoughts make it so painful to do.
Yeah.
Makes it so dramatic in our head, you know?
Yeah, and when you so when you have like a coach, if Charmaine was coaching you, for example, and you went to her and said, yeah, this is all the drama that was going on, and then I ate the cake, and then you hear yourself tell her that, you're going to be like, that sounds ridiculous, actually. So, you know, call yourself out on those thoughts when you're doing something, or you're thinking about doing it even. And be like, hey, actually, does this make any sense? Would a rational human being actually be doing this? The answer is probably no.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta challenge all those thoughts. Like it's like when I observe the thoughts, like I tell people, like you observe the thoughts going in your mind, and you can challenge every one of them. Like just because the thought comes up in your mind, like, oh, that looks good, you know, doesn't mean that you have to respond to it. Like you said, how you decide to react to it in that or respond to it in that moment is within your control.
Yeah. That's really good. So is there anything more on this topic that we needed to cover? I've kind of lost track of what we've been talking about.
We're good. I think that honestly, if you just, whoever's watching, if you do use the tools that we talked about, like the setting the goals, having that purpose, and allowing the feelings, like honestly, if you do those things, I don't see any reason that you would ever eat emotionally, honestly, at home. Like, you know, if you practice that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, Charmaine. I really enjoyed this. This was good.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun. I just love talking about this stuff.